All right, then. I see how it is.
Yes, I'll be fully here for the next show.
Fine.
It's okay. I was planning on phoning it in anyway.
Oh. Well, that's good. Hello and welcome to Rhythm Encounter episode 54, the RPG Fan Music Podcast. If you're new to the show, well, welcome. We were on hiatus for a while, but we're getting back into we're getting back into a rhythm of the show now. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please check out our previous episodes. We have an episode about Yasunari Mitsuda. We have an Undertale episode, a workout episode. So it's been fun coming back to the show, and I hope people have been enjoying us back on a regular schedule. As you might have noticed from the title, today we're here talking about relaxing music because, you know, it might be a good time to listen to some relaxing music these days. So it's been a much requested topic from the staff. In fact, we had too many people that wanted to do this episode, so we're actually splitting it into 2 episodes. So today is our first part, and then in a couple weeks or so, we'll have part 2. So anyway, what I did not do yet is introduce myself. So I am Mike Salbato. I'm editor-in-chief of RPG Fan, and I don't actually know what my title is on Rhythm Encounter. Can I also be editor-in-chief on Rhythm Encounter?
Hey, you're in charge. You can call yourself whatever you want.
Exactly.
Okay.
We'll listen to you, whatever you say.
Host,
Okay, yeah.
editor-in-chief, Grand Poobah, it's all you.
Grand Maestro.
The Grand Maestro.
Ooh, I like that.
How about just Maestro?
Maestro?
I'm your Maestro.
All right, we're going to start this all over again, and that's how I'll introduce myself. I'm just kidding. So with me today, I have 2 other big music fans on the site. So we have Alana Hagues.
Hello.
And Jonathan Logan.
Good morning, everyone. Or afternoon, wherever you are.
Yes. Or good evening, even.
Good
if you're listening
evening.
to this at night.
Perfect thing to listen to just before you hit the sack. Just nice, relaxing music.
Exactly. All right, so we're talking about relaxing music today. So we have, each of us brought 2 songs from several different games and series over the years. I'm actually really interested in getting some of your guys' picks because there's some good stuff there. There's one I have not listened to in a very, very long time, so I'm excited about that. We're actually starting up with actually one of my choices. I forget when this came out. I think it was this summer, July or August or something like that. But there was a pretty new album called Square Enix. Oh shoot, what is the full thing? Square Enix Chill Out Arrangement Tracks Around 80s Mix. I think it's mostly Square games from the 80s, but I think they wanted to get a couple songs from like 1990, 1991, so they just said, well, it's around the 80s, so that's good enough.
The NES era.
Yeah, I'm like, it's a fun title. So I chose the town theme from the very first Saga game from 1989. I know some people here have mixed feelings about Saga, but I hope we can still enjoy this song. And speaking of Jono, what is your second track here?
My second track is actually probably it was my favorite song when I was a kid from Final Fantasy. It's Scene 7, Final Fantasy II's Rebel theme from the Symphonic Suite Final Fantasy album.
Great. All right, so we're going to go listen to Town Theme and Scene 7 and come back with our commentary. I don't know how I keep bringing Saga songs on here, since I've only actually played Saga Frontier and a little bit of Saga Frontier 2. Because since Rhythm Encounter came back, I've now brought on 2. But, that's how it works out. There's actually a lot of really good songs on this album, but there's something about this one that the melodies of a lot of the early Saga games just really adapt well, I think, to different types of music. And I've been listening to this album so much over the last couple of months. So I knew that when we were talking about doing this episode, that something on this album had to be here. And amongst early Final Fantasy and some other stuff, I landed on Saga.
Yeah, they teased this album a few months ago, didn't they? They dropped a couple of singles, and the first thing I did immediately was download them and was like, this is exactly what I needed. Yeah,
it's great. So I like this one a lot because the main melody, I think, is the most interesting part to me, because it kind of comes and goes during the song, and each time it comes back, it's a slightly different instrument. So it kind of gives it some energy and some variation, but it doesn't actually break the mood. Like, it's still relaxing throughout, even though they change instruments a few times. I also like it. I don't actually know for sure if it's meant to be like rain or kind of like staticky, like record scratchy stuff at the end, but I'm gonna say it's rain. So why there's a little bit of rain in the last 30 seconds, I don't know. But given how often I listen to game music with rain sounds on YouTube, it actually worked pretty well for me.
I mean, lo-fi tends to use the record scratch bit anyway, but I think I'd agree with you, because when I listened to this the first time, I didn't know it was a Saga game. I just went in blind. I was like, all right, let's just go and see if we recognize any of them. And I did a few of them, but this one feels like it would play on a summer day. And I think what I really like about it is that you get, as well as the really soft piano and the flute and the drum beat in the background, you also get some normal noises. So you get there's kids running around, you can hear them laughing, there's dog barking, there's crickets and birds chirping as well. So it feels like one of those hazy summer days where you're there with as a kid and you're having fun, but not in an over energetic way. It's just kind of you're out for a picnic or something. You're oh, that's great.
Yeah, I agree. The soundscape really does boost the song, I think, because it really creates a sense of place. And the fact that there is rain at the end of it just makes sense for me. It's part of the soundscape that's inside the song. Yeah,
I think so. And I think, Mike, you mentioned it gives there's music instruments that give it a bit of energy. The one thing that stuck out to me is that yes, it is relaxing, but it's very floaty. It's very much when you're so happy you're on cloud 9 kind of thing. This is kind of the so happy that I'm blissfully unaware of anything else going on in my life right now. I'm just chilled out, I'm happy, I'm content, I just want to be in this mindset for the rest of my life, sitting here listening to this and just in a really generally good mood. And I think how flighty and how upbeat the instruments all come together to make this really nice positive sounding song. It makes you feel good about yourself, which is nice.
Yeah, no, that's a great way of putting it. You're basically saying that it makes you feel the way I feel when I play Final Fantasy 14.
Pretty much,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
14 can't be relaxing all the time, though, can it?
Not relaxing, but just it just puts me in a good headspace. I'm yes, I'm just going to focus on this. I'm content. I'm enjoying this.
A nice flow space.
Right.
Yes,
yeah.
Exactly.
Right, yeah. And I think that's really interesting about everyone's picks on here is we've all gone for relaxing, but it feels like we've all gone for a different flavor of relaxing. So you say that this puts you in a good headspace. And I guess most of these do. I think this is probably the best example of it on the playlist, whereas some other ones that we'll get to later on, I think, touch on some different moods that you can listen to while you're relaxing, but you're not necessarily in a good headspace, let's say.
What I find interesting about all of the pieces, actually, we'll get to this, but it's that it really gives me I've learned quite a bit about both of you based on your songs, because although every song in this list is relaxing, you're right, there are relaxing in different ways, and it's just interesting to see what causes someone to chill and just calm down and relax, and what type of music does that.
Please don't psychoanalyze me.
We don't have time, Alana. We don't have time.
You do not have time to psychoanalyze me, I promise you. Yeah, and I think...
Ooh, she turned that around on you.
Mike, I think that both of your tracks are really upbeat, actually. Which does not surprise me, knowing what I know about you. But yeah, back to this one. I think the one instrument I really like is the harp that comes in, and one word I wrote down was, like, again, to go with the flightiness of it, it's pretty ethereal. Like, this sounds really, it's like, it stays to the source material. Like, I listened to the Final Fantasy Legend or version beforehand just to familiarize myself with it, and it's like a really, like, ethereal interpretation of it. Like, you're in a place bathed in sunlight and just enjoying the relaxation of this little town.
I've always felt that the measure of an arranger, especially of Final Fantasy music, or any really game music, is how they adapt a song from the 1980s, especially like a song for Game Boy, because it's a 30-second little loop of music, and that's all they had the room for. And that an arranger can take that 30-second little snippet of music and then expand it into a full, like, 4-minute song, essentially, with there's a soundscape in it, and it takes you through a number of instruments and variations upon the themes from that 30 seconds. It's really fascinating. I think this is a great example of that, how you can take a very simple little musical phrase, basically, and then expand it into something that is much, I guess, not greater, but I guess just longer. Yeah,
longer, and then just the variety and everything that comes into play, and expanding a song like that, it is, you're right, it's very impressive.
Yeah, finding complexity. I mean, the songs from Final Fantasy, the early Final Fantasy saga, basically everything from the early NES and Game Boy eras, they're designed to be earworms, all of them, because they had such a limited amount of time, which is one of the reasons I think that they have, there's still so much love for them until this day. I don't think it's just nostalgia. I think it's their ridiculously catchy tunes. And it's nice to hear arrangements, because then you get to hear increasing complexity based on these really simple songs.
Exactly, yeah. So, speaking of arrangements of early Final Fantasy games...
Yeah, the Rebels theme from Final Fantasy II. Or, I guess, Suite 7 from the Symphonic, from the Final Fantasy Symphonic Suite. Yeah, like I said earlier, this was one of my favorite tracks when I was a kid. This was... Ooh, I hope I'm not going to get arrested for this. This was one of the first Final Fantasy tracks I ever downloaded from Napster. When I was...
Oh, no.
I know.
Oh.
Yeah, because back in those days, internet was so slow that my exposure to Final Fantasy music outside of the games that I play, I bookmarked a MIDI site, and I would just download, like, basically really crappy MIDIs of the game, so... Boop, 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 boop. But, and then I started downloading a few of the albums, and I never could find all of the parts of this album on Napster, but I found this was my favorite one. It was the closing track, and I always found it to be a wonderful mixture of both relaxing and grand and sweeping. It was, I just loved it. The entire album was great, but this track specifically spoke to me. And as I grew up, it stuck with me, and I still had it. And what it eventually became, the reason why I included it in this episode is not just because I find it relaxing, it's because this was always the last song on my relaxing playlists. Because when I was in theater school, we would occasionally have, like, I don't know, lunch or 20-minute breaks, and I was always so exhausted there that whenever I could get some sleep, I would. So I put together a Final Fantasy Symphonic playlist it was about 20 minutes, and this would always be the last track on it, because then at the very end it starts picking up and starts getting grander and grander. So it would kind of take me from relaxing to pushing me out off the couch and get back to class.
Ooh, that's a really interesting thing to do, actually. But yeah, it has got a really nice, relaxing quality to it, and I think it sounds really romantic. And interestingly enough, like, one of the things I wrote down, I didn't actually look at the track list for the album, and I have listened to the whole album before, so I didn't realize it was the last track. I felt that it was really nice. It's like this kind of, you know, when you're relaxing and you feel good about it, and not that you want to celebrate, but it's kind of celebratory, I guess. It does feel like credits music. Like, and I know that Rebel Army is not a piece of credits music. I think it plays pretty early on in Final Fantasy II, if I remember rightly. But yeah, like, it does rise and swell, like, kind of halfway through the song, and I don't think it ever loses that tone. It's like, after you've done something really good and you want to just chill out, but you also want to, like, celebrate that, I feel like this is a really good encapsulation of that, just because it's got that kind of triumphant, romantic, noble tone to it. And I think you could probably hear this at a wedding, I think. I really, really love this arrangement of this song. And, like, again, Rebel Army is probably one of my favourite tracks from Final Fantasy II as well. And it's interesting we have a block of a Saga game and a game that basically inspired Saga, or where the director of the game went on to make Saga as well.
Yeah, the Proto-Saga.
The Proto-Saga, yeah. But yeah, it's a really beautiful piece, and, like, I think it's proof that you don't always need, like... Because Mike and I think, have quite similar taste in relaxing music, but you don't always need, like, that kind of chilled out... I'm trying to think of the right word for it. But, like, this is, like, natural orchestration, and as opposed to, like, synth music, or... I'm generalizing a little bit.
I know what you mean,
but
yeah,
this is, like, parlor music, almost. Like, it's not exactly, but it's a really nice way of closing out something.
Yeah, when I picked it, I immediately had the thought, there are some people who might not find this particularly relaxing, especially not the ending. But the way I was looking at the episode, it's songs that we individually find relaxing. And for me, this song is like a key part of my chill out kind of playlist.
Yeah. Sorry, Mike, we've kind of stolen the show from you a little bit.
No, I mean, this was his song. He should be talking about it a lot. I almost wish I knew that was why you put it on here. I might have actually closed the show with it, but I thought it was good to have our square picks together too. So
I think you're right.
Yeah, no, it's good. I haven't listened to this album in so long. I think I don't think it's the first Final Fantasy, like, arrangement or non-soundtrack I bought, but it might be one of the earliest.
Oh, you bought it? Ooh.
Yeah.
No Napster for you.
I think. I don't know. I think I have a disc somewhere. I don't know. Maybe I just listened to it online.
I bought it years later, but I have an odd feeling that the MP3 that I have on my computer might actually be the original one I got from, like, 2000 or 1998 or something like that.
Oh,
it's
wow.
Oh, no, it's not. I ripped it again. Never mind.
Oh, okay.
I remember I ripped it again, because otherwise it would be, like, radio quality. Just
right.
Napster quality.
Yeah, Napster quality, back when MP3s were like a megabyte.
Right. And then you probably have something in the comments like, ripped by some incomprehensible screen name. Yeah.
Them's were the days.
Yep. But yeah, I have not heard this album in so long. I don't know if I can say a whole lot more about the music that's better than what you guys said, because I do have a bunch of notes about the orchestrations and easy listening, etc., 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 but you pretty much already covered that. What you did not talk about, which I wanted to cover, I didn't realize until I was putting my notes together for this, but this album has been reprinted several times. So the cover art on the one we were listening to is the one I'm familiar with, and I looked that up, and that was reprinted in, like, sometime in the 90s, but the original album came out in 1989, which really impresses me, because
wow.
I don't think it occurred to me that they were doing orchestral albums for Final Fantasy that early. Because the track list is just Final Fantasy 1 and 2. Like, I think is that before Final Fantasy 3 even came out?
I think Final Fantasy 3 was 1989 or 1990.
Yeah, so it's actually fascinating to me, because today, like, we're used to this. Like, we're used to orchestra albums or live performances and, all the things that, kind of what we talked about for the first track, that how things get arranged and adapted to different formats. But I don't think I really realized that they put something out like this so early on. They knew what they had here with this music, and that's impressive to me. I always thought it was at least somewhere in, like, the mid 90s or later when it came out.
Yeah, actually, it's really interesting, because when I picked this song, I was doing some research on the album, and on the Final Fantasy wiki, they have a translation of the liner notes, and one of the things in it is specifically saying, where is it? I really think that if you stop thinking of this orchestra as game music, you can enjoy it even more. And that's something that I think I might be wrong, I'm not Japanese, but that's something that the Japanese got a lot sooner than we did. But now I think we do too, where game music is a very legitimate form of music, and even classical in some cases. But I think it's really interesting. This is one of the first albums that arranged Final Fantasy music. Because of that, they needed to set the stage. As in, don't just think of this as game music. Don't think of this as game music. Think about it as full orchestral sound.
Right. No, that's interesting.
I mean, think about considering that most people, their exposure to this would have been Final Fantasy 1 and 2, just like very basic NES sound card MIDI kind of sounds. It must have been mind-blowing to hear these full orchestral arrangements of these tunes.
Yeah, I can't even imagine way back then.
Yeah, and I mean, I also think it does something that what we were talking about with your pick, which is, take a very short little earworm that was composed for a NES game and then expand it with repetitions on a theme and, various instruments, and make it into something that is considerably grander and more complex than it originally was. And I think this is a pretty good example of that.
Oh yeah, definitely. I liked what Alana said, that you said it sounded kind of like credits music in some games, and I immediately thought of like Final Fantasy VI's ending, which is kind of what this does remind me of. Mm.
Yeah.
But more importantly was the wedding thing. So I need now to find some friends that are getting married and suggest that they play the Rebel Armies theme at a wedding and see how that goes.
Play that and play Ardeus from Grandia 2. Those are like my two video game songs I would play at a wedding, and probably two Zanarkand as well. Whatever. There you go.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, if I'm having any game song played at my wedding, it's going to be 24 Hours Cinderella from Yakuza.
Yes!
Oh, man. I'm out of the loop here. I don't know that one. Okay, I'll look it up after this.
I'll send you the link. It's kind of amazing.
Okay, all right, great. All right, well, I don't have a good segue between that and this next song, but... So for our second block of music, we actually have two watery type songs, and the first one of those is one of yours, Alana.
Yeah, it is, and I thought I was being really good, because I thought I was jumping the gun a little bit and picking a track from CrossCode, which is a 2018 action RPG that just got ported to Switch this year, and other consoles. But actually, obviously, Marcus Gaspar, a former music editor, the king of music, I suppose, had already beaten me to the gun 30 episodes ago almost. But today's track is Temple of the Lake by Deniz Akbulut, and it's very different to anything we've had so far, so I hope you enjoy. And I believe the other track, Mike, it's your second pick.
Yeah, I'll save most commentary for after, but the Tangledeep soundtrack has been a fixture on my personal relaxing playlist for quite a while, so I knew pretty early on that I was going to have to bring it on here somewhere. So I have Riverstone Reprieve from the Tangledeep soundtrack. So let's go and listen to those, and then we'll have some commentary after.
Temple of the Lake is a really interesting track in CrossCode. I think that it might be worth giving a little bit of context. Jono probably already knows this because he's one of the only other people I know who've played this game.
Yeah, and recently too.
So the temples in CrossCode, they're all elemental basically, and Temple of the Lake is the water temple with quotes around it. So it's underwater, but interestingly enough, the water element in CrossCode is not water-based. It is wave-based, as in sound waves. And I think that's reflected really, really well in this piece of music, because we were having a little chat before this section, and Mike quite rightly pointed out that it reminded him of Chronopolis from Chrono Cross, and yeah, there's plenty of that in this track. And a lot of the reason I love it and find it really relaxing is, kind of two things. Like, there's two things I love about music that helps me chill out, zone out, and is probably reflected in both pieces of music I've picked today. One is anything that echoes. I love music that echoes in the background. I love it when it sounds like it's reverberating or bouncing off the walls or fading out. And I also love it when there's, like, repetition or a back and forth. Like, I love a lot of Mitsuda's music because of the, bells that just ring back and forth, or you've got, Scala's theme from Chrono Trigger that plays the same kind of back and forth every time. And it kind of helps me get into a bit of a rhythm. But this track as well reminds me of a couple of games I played as a kid and a couple of my favorite PlayStation 1 platformers. So there's a level, this is probably showing my youth as well. There's Aquaria Towers in Spyro 2, which is an underwater level, and it has the same sort of echoey sound that plays throughout this track. And there's also Untamed Heart, which is the music from Vision 6-1 in Klonoa Door to Phantomile. And it again has that back and forth, that kind of rhythmic echoing in the background. And I know Deniz Akbulut is a big fan of Klonoa, so I think this piece is inspired by it a little bit. But I'm probably putting words into his mouth anyway. But yeah, like, there's just so many different components that make this really chill and focused for me. Like, it's just the humming in the background, it kind of ripples like water to me, and it's a relaxing track that kind of gets me in the zone more than anything else. So this is like something I'll put on if I want to get some work done, or if I'm going for a walk and don't really want to think too much about anything. And it's interesting because many of the temples in CrossCode are races. So you go in with friends and they all disappear because it's an MMO. Of course, there are instances. And you have to race to see who can beat the temple the fastest. And most of the music for the temples is pretty upbeat and pretty, like, determined. But this is not. It's definitely more of the, wind yourself in, get ready, breathe. And it helped me do this temple. And this is the temple I did the best in, essentially. But yeah, this piece of music's just stuck with me ever since I played CrossCode a couple of years ago, and it's been like a mainstay. So yeah.
You mean you didn't just ace the ice temple the first time?
Nope. No way.
Yeah, I think this is a great tune too. What I really think is kind of cool, what you said about how there are elements that are bouncing back and forth, and because it's the wave dungeon, which basically that's the kind of... The music in this particular dungeon really does reflect the theme of it, and makes me feel very much like it fits the dungeon very, very well. And I mean, I think almost every track in in CrossCode is very, very well written and really fits the area that it's in. But this one especially, I have no idea how to pronounce the name of the temple. Sonaji? The Sonaji temple?
I think so. Sonaji's temple, or Sonaji, yeah.
Yeah. It's a really nice track. It's cool. I don't know. I mean, this is what I came back to. It's really interesting to see what people find relaxing. For me, there's so much going on in this track that it starts stimulating thoughts for me. So it's not the kind of song I would listen to if I wanted to zone out, but it is the kind of thing that I would want to listen to if I was wanting to study or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is a different kind of relaxing.
Yeah, I find it pretty relaxing. I think I can't get over the Chronopolis thing that Alana mentioned, but it's not a bad thing at all.
No, there's something about Chronopolis that is really hypnotic, I suppose.
Yeah, it's interesting, like not knowing fully the setting the way you guys do. I do get this sense of kind of like a sense of mystery and maybe like some foreboding to it. I don't know. I don't know if the temple feels foreboding at all, but there's something about, I don't know if it's just the song or if it's that thing, that sound we keep talking about, and just kind of the way it flows around, like kind of goes between like the left and the right channels a little bit. It's interesting. It makes me feel something, but I'm not entirely sure what it is. So I think I'm a little bit like Jono, where it's not relaxing, but yeah, I would definitely listen to it while working or something like that. But that's kind of like what you said you do anyway. Like you play it on walks and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I tend to listen to relaxing music either if I want to zone out or if I want to get work done, because it helps me focus. Like, this is a track that I can focus to, but I find it really chill as well. Like, it's not gonna, I'm not gonna sit here and listen to, I don't know, I can't think of like a heavy metal, Blue Dragon or something, like the boss music from that. I can't necessarily get writing done to Eternity or something from Guilty Gear. This is something that I would definitely put on my playlist.
Yeah.
One of the things I love about the music from CrossCode is, and this is very much the meta nature of the game, whenever you go into a temple, and especially this temple, it kind of gives an air of like mystery and history and like a deep sense of lore. And I think it's just hysterically funny that these temples are built by game designers and people who want to play an MMO, and this song that is so deep was, I mean, this is just how I interpret it. All the music in this game, in my mind, is being heard by the players of the game too.
Right, yeah.
Because,
oh god, I hadn't even thought of that, yeah.
Yeah, because they're playing an MMO, right? So there is music to them.
Yeah.
They're probably hearing it in the background because that deepens the emotion. That music's a key part of an MMO. So whenever I hear a song in the game, that's what I think Leah is also listening to. And that's what I think is funny about all the temples, is there's this deep sense of mystery in it. But I'm once removed from it as the person playing the MMO, and I'm like, someone wrote this.
I think the other thing I learned from this is that I probably should listen to both of you and a few other people that have told me to, 1, play the game, 2, at least get the soundtrack.
Oh yeah, you should definitely at least do 2. I think you'd really like CrossCode. It's like Zelda meets Secret of Mana meets Ease. So yeah.
2 things I love.
That's true, yeah. You have not played it much Ease, have you?
Not much. I've played 1.5 of them, but I do like them a lot. Just, need to find time to play more.
Yeah, me too.
That's basically the constant struggle. I need more time to play.
Yeah. So, speaking of games I have not played a ton, but do enjoy the time I've spent with them, is Tangledeep. I don't really know what even drew me to the game, because I don't usually play a lot of like roguelike dungeon crawler whatever. But it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun and has this soundtrack that's mostly done by Zircon or Andrew Aversa, whatever you want to call him. But he started out going by Zircon. I mean, he still uses it too. But yeah, I said a little bit before we played the music, but I've always had for a long time now, like a chill or some kind of relaxing playlist just for myself. And a few years ago, I just decided to like dump it and start over again. And one of the first things I put on there was the Tangledeep soundtrack. Most of the Tangledeep soundtrack, because there's a particular song that would always come up that I would always forget to remove. And there's this casino song in Tangledeep, which is the complete opposite of relaxing. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. I mean, no disrespect to Grant Kirkhope, who apparently popped in just to make this one song in this game.
Oh, I was going to say, if you're going to disrespect Grant Kirkhope, we're going to have a falling out here, definitely.
Oh, what? No, I got nothing against them. It just,
Good.
you can't really relax to his like super upbeat casino song from Tangledeep. It just doesn't work. But that aside, a lot of the soundtrack kind of has a relaxing feel, but I don't think any of them as much as this. And I think that's probably by design because, you get yourself ready in town and you go into your dungeons. And I think it's important that the town theme kind of has this really chill, like, hey, you're home here, you're safe, and things aren't going to like eat your face here as they were doing in that forest or in that cave. So a lot of the soundtrack has this, it's not all foresty, despite like the name and a lot of the visuals you see are foresty, but there's a mystery quality to a lot of the songs of kind of like, hey, like I'm going to go explore this place. Like how deep can I go? It's this, I don't know how to describe a mysterious forest sound, even though like most RPGs have that somewhere. But that's what I get in a lot of the songs. And it's a little bit in this, but mostly this one's just more happy and laid back. And it's like, hey, you're home now, like relax, go raise some monsters or whatever else you want to do in town. So
Right,
it's
yeah.
just a good break from your dungeon life in the game.
I think so. Yeah, I think you captured it pretty well. And like this sounds, how like some roguelikes or dungeon crawlers can have music that's more foreboding or like at least kind of sets you up for what might be really dangerous. And this feels more like a roguelike for people who enjoy experiencing a childlike wonder kind of exploration style. Like,
yes.
There's something about piano notes, like I think about halfway through the song, there's like these single piano notes, like it's just one flick of one key, and it's almost like a sparkle or something like shiny, like almost like you see something shiny and you're like, oh my god, that's amazing. And it's still like wonder can be a really like nice chill thing because it's just, again, it's like capturing that kind of happy, peaceful moment. And it's interesting that this is like the base or the hub area music, because it does really, like, I wouldn't expect to be going dungeon crawling in like a kind of dark area or, just as you would go dungeon crawling. Like that, the word dungeon crawling kind of puts fear into my heart, but this is like a really gentle, easy song to kind of ease you into the process of going to, as you said, raise monsters or go plunder some treasure or go get deeper into the woods. Yeah, when you say like mysterious forest music as well, like the first thing I always think of is Shadow Forest from Chrono Cross again. There's something really ethereal and magical about that, but that's foreboding, and this is totally different to that kind of wonder. Yeah, it makes me smile, this track. I like it a lot.
Well, I'm glad. I think you got it right. Like, have you played the game at all or no?
No, I haven't.
No, I think that's a really good insight then. The wonder, and it's just a different tone than you usually expect from roguelikes and dungeon crawlers, which I think fits the game in general. So it's good to hear that comes out, like even if you only know the music.
I find it very interesting that you chose 2 town themes as your relaxing songs, and that makes complete sense because when I was listening to both of them, although they are very, very different tracks, I started reflecting on many other town themes from other RPGs and what the function of those town themes is. And it's just like what you said. You were in the field or in the forest or somewhere, and the music's very exciting, and there's battle music. But then when you go into a town, the purpose of the music is to make you feel safe. There's no monsters. There's lots of friendly NPCs around. There's an inn. There's items. It's an oasis from all the danger around you. And the music, both this song and the first one, the chill town theme, both do that beautifully. It makes you feel safe and relaxed, and there's no danger here. I can hang out. I can do what I need to. And I think that's really an interesting segment of relaxation.
I didn't realize that I picked 2 town themes when I picked them. I wasn't really planning on it. I just knew that I wanted something from these 2 albums, but maybe that says something about me. Kind of like you've been saying, like how this kind of gives us some insight into each other and what makes us relax. So I guess town themes make me relax.
Yeah, and they're supposed to.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. Most of the time.
Most of the time, unless you're coming into a town that's been destroyed by airships or something.
Yeah, but how often does that happen in an RPG?
Oh, I don't know. Not that often.
No. To be fair, I do have some other picks because not to spoil anything for episode 55, but the intent was, because I'm on both, I was going to bring 1 song on each, but it kind of messed up our structure of the show, so I have 2 on each. So I do have some non-town themes on the other episode once we get to that one, which I just guess doesn't help you guys today. But I think one of my other favorite things of relaxing is coffee. So I was very happy that both of you picked some, coffee songs. So of course I had to group our coffee songs in the 3rd block here. So our first one is by Alana.
Yeah, so this is from another really recent game, actually, kind of accidentally. So this is Sunrise in Limbo from Necrobarista, which is a kind of visual novel type game. This is by Kevin Penkin and Jeremy Lin, and it's a beautiful song, so I'm really excited to talk about it. And Jono's got our other coffee pick today.
Yes, my coffee pick is Godot, The Fragrance of Dark Coffee. It's from a jazz arrangement album of Ace Attorney.
Oh, and they are both good stuff. Okay, I'm going to go refill my coffee, and then we're going to go listen to these songs.
So, yeah. You say this is the coffee block, but I'm also going to make a point and say this might be the sadder block of the 3 blocks we have, considering Jono's pick as well. But to go with Necrobarista to start off with, there's a quote in this game. It's really early on, and it always sticks with me when I listen to this song. And it's said by Che, I think, who is the former owner of the Terminal, which is the coffee shop or the coffee bar that is the star of Necrobarista, shall we say. And he says this to Maddie, who is the current owner and arguably the main character. And she's really down, like you can tell that there's something up with her. And Che says to her, is this an I'm actually fine, or a more of a I'm having trouble processing and or expressing my feelings and would like the conversation to move in a different direction, fine. And I think that kind of fits in really well with this song, because yes, I've picked it for a relaxing music track, but Necrobarista is a game about confronting and accepting death. Like Necrobarista, the coffee shop, the Terminal, is literally it's like a period, it's a place where when people die, they have 24 hours left before they leave and I guess officially die. I'm explaining the premise of the game extremely poorly, but you know, can you imagine going into a coffee shop and realizing that you're dead and that not many living people can see you, and then you've got 24 hours to process that you've died, and you've got 24 hours to sit here and drink coffee and talk to people that you don't know. Like, you can't go reconcile with your loved ones, you can't go and talk to them, you've got to come to terms with it on your own with these people you don't know. And I think summarizing Limbo is it goes through some motions, because I think really what grounds it is the bass humming in the background. Like, it gives this kind of earthy tone, and it gives it kind of like a down-to-earth tone, but also a sad tone. And I think this song is something I listen to when I want to relax after I've had a bad day and kind of reflect on stuff. And it tends to play in a lot of those scenes in Necrobarista where the characters are either coming to terms with death, or coming to terms with morality, or coming to terms with their problems. And that quote that Chase says, you know, is this an I'm actually fine? It's Maddie, like, dealing with a lot of stuff. Like, she's just recently taken over the Terminal, and she's got all of this weight on her shoulders that you don't quite know about yet. And she's really struggling to keep it in, and she doesn't want to let anybody else in. But she's doing it in a way that, like, she's closing off, and she's just trying to come to terms with it herself. I think the piano as well gives it a really nice flick and a really nice, like, as I said, it goes through the motions, and I think, like, it mostly is kind of contemplative and reflective, but I also think there are moments where there's a little bit of hope, like, oh, what if this happens? Or, oh, you know, death isn't so bad, and maybe I can stay somehow. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I can make amends. And I think that the whole soundtrack really lends itself to this. There's some really light, fun music, but also a lot of the music is very, very much a kind of, it's a meditation. And I don't think relaxing is always, it's not always positive. Positive is the wrong word for it, but it's not always an act of, I don't know, I can't think of the right tone for it, but like, sometimes I relax to take everything in. I just need a moment to myself in a room with some music or not, and I just need to go, right, you've had a really bad day, there's a lot to do, what is it? Try and figure it out for yourself, put it in, compartmentalize it or whatever, put it into a list or an order. And this is the kind of music I would probably picture doing this to, like, trying to come to terms with why I felt this way, why I want to do things this way, and why I feel the way that I do. I spend a lot of time being introspective, unfortunately, and this is kind of the, yeah, it is relaxing, definitely, but I think it's got a bit of an undertone to it that I think a lot of music I listen to does, unfortunately. But I think it's a really beautiful song, really.
I don't think introspection is necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a good thing.
A
lot of people can't do it.
Yeah, it's a different kind of relaxing to some of the other songs, but you're still trying to like decompress and relax and figure out like what's going on in your head. Right. So it still works. Just you're right. It's a different way than some of the other ones today.
Yeah, decompress is the right word for it. Yeah.
I find it interesting because the song isn't necessarily melancholy, but maybe it's the title and the concept of the game, but it kind of broadcasts a little bit of a sense of melancholy to me when I was listening to it.
Yeah, there's some, like, I think there's something heavy about it, I think, than a lot of other tracks in that game.
I remember when I was talking to Zach about it on Random in, like, 200 years ago, back in August. It was, he said that it was one of the most cinematic games that he's ever played. Yep. And this song specifically, it does sound like it could be in a film. It could be underscoring in a film. And, like, does all the music in the game kind of have this, I guess, cinematic feel?
To a degree, yeah. I definitely think it's more on the visual side of things, and I think the soundtrack is it kind of falls mostly into that easy listening category. Like, I think it all suits the mood.
Not unlike what you would actually find in a coffee shop.
Some of it, yeah. Some of it I would agree, yeah. But again, actually, to bring up that cinematic thing, there's again another shot that I really remember with this track, and it's of Shay and Maddie. Just literally, the camera zooms out, and all you can see is the bar, the two stories of it, because there's a staircase next to the bar. Maddie and Shay are at the bar, slumped over it, kind of just thinking, and the whole of the rest of the screen is dark. Like, the terminal is a fairly musty, like, you know, like an industrial coffee shop that's really cool. Every shot and every song in this game really just captures the whole mood so perfectly in every corner of the game.
Oh, I'm looking at a photo of the coffee shop right now.
It's beautiful.
On RPGFan.com.
Oh yeah,
the image section. If anyone's looking for it, it's the third one in the gallery.
Yeah, it is based on a real coffee shop as well in Melbourne. So
it's a cool place. It looks like a cool place anyway.
Yeah, it's my favorite kind of coffee shop. It reminds me of one that we have in town here that is like partially wooden, and you can see like all the metallic beams and the pipework in the ceiling, and it's great.
Oh yeah. It's basically just like the one that I used to go to when I was living in California.
Yes, I know the one you mean.
yes, you do. Yeah, same thing. Like just big and open. It's like it is literally in an industrial park, and they just have like corrugated metal and like some rough wood, and yeah, it's a good atmosphere. So I could picture this song playing there, for that matter, to sort of tie in my random story to this episode. I don't have much context for the game because I think I'm about an hour and a half into it. So I've probably heard the song. I've definitely heard that line you talked about, though. So that line did get to me. So I don't think I connect it with the game yet in terms of it being sad. So I didn't pick up a ton of that. I think I got more, without the game context, I got more of just the downbeat part of it. So I still like it, but I guess for different reasons than you. The piano especially, I'm liking a lot in this song. I'm not sure how much that comes into the other music in the game.
There's a few tracks, definitely. The title music, and I think it's called, I can't remember what it's called actually, I won't try and remember it. That's got a really, really somber piano tone to it, and I almost picked that song as well, but yeah, I think this had like the more of the mix of like the downbeat, but also a little bit of hope flickered in the middle of it. I do like how it slows down towards the end as well. Like you can feel the weight almost lifting off of the characters, maybe as they pass or as they kind of accept their situation.
Yeah.
I haven't played the game and I've just heard about it, but it seems there is a sense of melancholy, but it also seems there's a sense of hope, like this is a place where people come to terms with what happened to them. Whereas if I imagine Limbo as a coffee shop, like it's a bit more depressing. It's like there's a guy in the corner who's forever not working on his screenplay, and people who just have cold coffee everywhere, who just are sitting there. It's a very depressing image, but this game does not look depressing at all. It's actually quite gorgeous.
it handles it really well. There's a really lovely balance between, I think it's actually maybe one of the funniest games I've ever played. Like, there's such a light-hearted tone to the humor, and it feels so real and conversational, and like so many. And I don't know if this is because I'm British, because Australia uses a lot of British slang, or we use each other's slang a little bit. Like, so much of the humor hit me really hard. Like, it made me love everybody in that coffee shop and everyone who came in and out, but it also made some of the other bits hit really hard for me. It really does balance that kind of, you know, melancholy, but also the beauty of everything. Like, it's such an incredibly beautiful game in every way, shape, and form, and I really, really highly recommend it. Like, it's great. Like, the soundtrack is fantastic as well, and if you know Kevin Penkin's work, he worked on an award-winning anime, which I can't remember the name of. He also did the soundtrack to Florence, which is so beautiful. It's such a good soundtrack, so he is extremely good at what he does.
Yep. You know who else is good at what he does? Phoenix Wright.
Hey.
Sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes.
Well, eventually he comes through.
Eventually.
I mean, it's the phase, really, isn't
eventually
it?
he turns it around. So I guess my last pick, which is also somewhat coffee based, is Godot, the Fragrance of Dark Coffee, and it's specifically a jazz arrangement of this tune, which makes sense because it's a very jazzy tune. So if I have you guys, Alana, you've played Ace Attorney, but have you, Mike?
I kind of got stuck on the second game.
Okay.
I played the first one. I can't remember. Is it the first one or the second one? Because I have it on 3DS, and they added like a DLC thing that kind of ties one of the games into the other ones, and it, like, the gameplay is totally different from the rest of the game.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh
no,
great.
We'll have to check. I don't know.
I can't remember if it was in the first game. It's something in the trilogy, and it has like some gameplay elements that come in later on.
Oh yes, Rise from the Ashes, the fifth case on Ace Attorney 1.
Oh.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it threw me off a little bit. So anyway, I know the first game, and I've started the second one at least.
Yeah. I mean, people have a lot of opinions about the Ace Attorney trilogy, which one's the best, which one's the worst. But I mean, I think that all three prosecutors are pretty damn amazing in them. And Godot's the prosecutor in the third game. And he is, he's a little bit extra with, and has this absolute obsession with coffee. Like, most of his quotes in the game are just reflection, like musings on coffee. Like, I'm just looking at probably his most popular one is blacker than a moonless night, hotter and more bitter than hell itself. That is coffee.
I mean, this is bitter drink music, isn't it? Like, jazz is the epitome of, like, get a bourbon or a whiskey or a coffee and sit down and just, you know, get a cigar out or something and just, I don't know, recline back into your velvet chair or whatever. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I love Godot so much. I'm interested because you say it Godot, and I did not know there were two ways of pronouncing it. I'm the Beckett way.
There's the Beckett way. Well, I mean, it might be either. We'd never actually heard them say Godot or Gado. I don't know. Everyone says waiting for Godot here, unless they're in theater, and then they kind of put an emphasis on the guy, and then it just sounds a little bit pretentious. And I say that as someone who went to theater school and is kind of pretentious. Probably the best piece, just on a related note, probably one of the most interesting pieces of theater I've ever seen in my entire life was at the Toronto Fringe Festival 10 years ago now. And these two actors, amazing guys, they did Waiting for Godot nonstop for, I think it was 48 hours. So they would just do Act 1, Act 2, Act 1, Act 2, Act 1, Act 2, nonstop.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and they would have different actors, like celebrity actors, come in and play the other parts occasionally throughout throughout every time they do a round. And I was there when they finished, and it was amazing. The two of them were like no sleep. They had a little 5-minute intermission between each act, and that was it. So they looked like they ran a 48-hour marathon by the end of it. It was amazing. and like every single word that came out of their mouths just about how sad they were and how frustrated they were waiting for him, it really started ringing true at the 48-hour mark.
Oh god, yeah, that does sound like the perfect culmination of the Samuel Beckett's play.
Yeah, it was called the Godot Variations, or I'll look it up. Anyway, yeah, just a related thing.
That's impressive.
Yeah, it's very impressive. But it has nothing to do with Ace Attorney. It has nothing to do with Ace Attorney, but it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I bet.
Anyway.
So, yeah, that's okay. Anyway, jazz.
Yeah, I mean, the character of Godot is probably he's probably the coolest of the prosecutors. He's a very, well, he's like really snappy dressed, has this weird visor on, we don't know why, but constantly just has a coffee in his hand, and like at occasional parts of the game, he'll just be sitting at the bench, and a coffee will slide across the bench like a bartender just flung it at him, and he'll just grab it and drink it. It's pretty great.
All right. Well, if nothing else, you've convinced me that I need to get back to the games and get to. You said the third game?
It's the third game, yeah. The Godot Cycles.
Yeah.
That's what it was called. The Godot Cycles.
I see.
Anyway.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think this particular arrangement is just awesome because, again, I mean, it's originally a Game Boy Advanced game, so they were somewhat limited by the length of the music and everything. So it's an earworm, but what they do with this specifically in terms of variation on the theme is amazing, and that's what jazz is. So it's a perfect example of that. The entire album it's great, but this song specifically just really rings true with the theme of it.
Yeah, I was looking at Pat. Of course, Pat reviewed this for RPG Fan. So I was looking at that earlier today, and he actually was talking in there a little bit about how this type of jazz isn't even what he usually goes for, but he liked it so much, and I think he sat down and listened to the album like 30 times in writing his review. So I'm going to say that's a pretty positive impression. Oh, I want to check out the rest of the album now.
It's a pretty cool. There's one it's an orchestra album that's kind of like a companion piece, and then there are a number of like live orchestra albums, but this one's unique and it's pretty cool. It is pretty cool.
Yeah, I do love the jazz arrange albums they do for video games. Some of the Final Fantasy ones haven't always hit right for me, but this is a really good song. And actually, like, Godot's theme in general is pretty chill, like even in game. And I think almost like the saga theme we had at the beginning of the episode, like it really is a really fantastic arrangement and interpretation of the song, because it's so true to it, but also it's got its own like it's got its own suaveness to it. And like, I'm not going to go into spoilers, but Godot's a pretty tragic character, and it kind of captures that world weary sense of melancholy, and like he's been through some stuff, and like you can tell just listening to this song that it's quite heavy again. And I mean, it's definitely a bit more upbeat than my pick, and definitely a bit more like it's more of a switch off song, I'd say. But yeah, I think Godot's been through some stuff, and you can tell from this song a little bit, at least from my experience. But again, I've got the context of the game, so
No, I agree 100%. I mean, the facade that he puts up throughout the entire game is impressive, just being like this cool guy, and then occasionally you see cracks in the facade as the game continues. Until by the end of it, where everyone knows there's a breakdown at the end of the game. That's Ace Attorney. And then it's pretty awesome the way the character. There's a great animation where he just loses it and throws a cup of coffee at Phoenix Wright, and there's just an animation of Phoenix with like coffee all over his face, blinking.
Yeah, it's pretty good. This is probably my go-to jazz, though. I think, as well as like acid jazz, which is the absolute opposite end of the spectrum to this. This is very soulful, and like soulful music music that makes you feel something is always something I really enjoy, and this kind of slow jazz that I could just, again, like, I'll drink my coffee to it. I had coffee before this. Unfortunately, I did put milk in it because that's how I generally take it. Sorry, Godot.
What would Godot say? I'm going to find the quote, but yeah, keep going.
Yeah, so there's something really, like, again, it's a little bit introspective and it's a little bit soft and a little bit just, yeah, willow away the days and just grab your bourbon and relax after our long day of prosecuting and doing other things.
A single drop of milk is all it takes to destroy the pure black magic in the cup.
Well, not for me.
Yeah.
No, we won't let him know what we do to our coffees. I wonder how he would feel about oat milk.
Oh,
Probably
he would
the same.
throw his coffee straight at you.
Why would he waste it?
He always has more.
Right?
Oh,
was gonna
that's
say,
true. That's true.
It's the Indiana Jones hat theory.
Yeah, it's great because immediately after he throws the coffee at Phoenix, another coffee slides across the prosecutor's bench and he just drinks it.
Excellent.
Man.
I love him.
You know, the last time I got asked if I could have any superpower, what would you have? I think I made the wrong choice. I think it needs to be that. I think I want that to be my power, where I can just summon coffee.
Me too.
Yes.
And like in the coolest way possible too. Not like it just appears in your hand. It's got to slide across whatever table you're at.
Yes.
Like the bartender just pulling it
Exactly.
at you.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. I like it. I'm going to go work on that. Before I do, though, we do have a bonus track, which someone here brought today. So I guess we should close out with that. Except I'm talking about that too soon.
No. Yes.
Yes, I am talking about that too soon. I have a whole outro that I have to talk about, don't I?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So that was Relaxing Music Part 1, which we will come up with a better name by the time this publishes. But, yeah. Thank you both for being here today. I think we got some really, really good songs on here.
My
I hope
pleasure.
people enjoy it as much as I did.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's lovely. And please don't psychoanalyze me again. Let's just close out with that.
Okay. No more psychoanalyzing, Alana. So this was episode 54. Episode 55 coming next, maybe in 2 weeks. If I can get it before that, we might do it a week after this. Will be part 2 of our relaxing music because we just had too much that we could not fit it on a single episode. So if you want to let us know what you thought about this, you can email us at music@rpgfan.com. If you're not listening to this on the website right now, if you go and view the post on RPG Fan, you can find the entire track list. And the way we're doing track lists on Rhythm Encounter now, we have links to our reviews, we have links to VGMDB, and then any major sites that you can either buy or stream any of these albums so you can support the artists. That's always a good thing to do. So check out our track list there so you can find ways to listen to this.
Be sure to keep off Napster.
Yes.
Please.
No Napster, no Kazaa. We will not have links to those. Oh, God. We're really dating ourselves here.
I know.
Yes. So again, if you want to contact the show, that's music@rpgfan.com. If you want to reach me, the best way for me is probably mike@rpgfan.com. I lurk in Discord, which you might see me sometimes, but otherwise email is best. If people want to email or talk to you guys, what's the best way?
So for me, probably Twitter. I am at Alana Hagues if you're not already following me. It'd be great to see you on there. I also lurk on the Discord. I'm mostly in the podcast channel, so if you want to hit me up there, I am Alana. If you do want to email instead, though, my email address is alanah@rpgfan.com.
And if you're wanting to email me, mine is jlogan@rpgfan.com. I am on Twitter @Jono Logan. And if you want to hear me, you can hear me every 2 weeks as one of the hosts of Random Encounter.
Oh, yes. I guess we should talk about the other shows, too. So, if you enjoyed this show, then you should continue coming back and listening to the Rhythm Encounter and do not listen to our other podcasts at all. That's how I'm supposed to do that, right?
That's right,
Yes.
yeah. I'm on too many retro at the moment, so I definitely advise that.
Oh, wait. No, that's true. Alana's on a lot of retros. So listen to every retro encounter that Alana is on.
Now, to be fair, I talk smack about you all the time at the end of a random episode. That's like our usual outro.
Okay, well, I guess that's fair.
I gotta be honest though. It's really, really cool to be able to say at the end of a random episode, and you can listen to Rhythm Encounter, new episodes, instead of Greg's constant. And you can listen to our backlog that's been there for like 5 years.
I know. I'm very, even though this is the 4th one we've recorded now, I'm still really excited that we're doing the show again.
It's really cool, man.
Yeah. But no, so, like, jokes aside, like, we also have 2 other podcasts that I do recommend you listen to. We have our general RPG and gaming podcast, Random Encounter, and then we have Retro Encounter, which is some retro games and some just other stuff in between. But it's always a good time. Random Encounter is bi-weekly, and Retro Encounter comes out every week on Thursdays or Fridays. So be sure to check them out too. If you enjoyed this episode, and you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, we would appreciate that. A review and subscription, helps boost us there and get the word out and gets more people listening. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell whoever you want. So we're going to close out now, as we usually do, with a bonus track. So who here has our bonus track, and what do you have for us today?
I do. So I was trying to figure out, I was going through my, relaxing playlist, and the most recent thing in my relaxing playlist is this tune. I think it is an amazing album. A few months ago, the Chrono Orchestral Arrangement disc came out, and they were orchestral arrangements of Chrono Trigger and Chrono Cross. But there was a special disc that came with the set, and they are piano duet versions of the Chrono Cross theme, the Chrono Trigger theme, Girl with Stars in Her Eyes. Is that the name of the track?
Star Stealing
Why did
Girl.
I just say Girl with the Stars in Her Eyes? It sounds like a Christmas movie from the 1980s.
Actually, it's a Christmas movie from last year. It's on the Hallmark Channel.
Oh, wow. Okay.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding. But it could be
that's
real.
Too bad. I was like, ooh, I have my finger on the pulse. Anyway, and we have Skulla's theme, which is from Chrono Trigger, and this is a piano duet version of it. It is unbelievably gorgeous. For my chill out kind of instrument, my chill out instrument of choice is always piano. So there's something about this that really hits me, and it gets so complex and in places simple and just does amazing things with the basic theme from Chrono Trigger, and I highly recommend it. It's a beautiful tune, and it's a great song to relax to.
That is a great choice. I like that box set a lot in general. The first 2 discs are great, but I was really glad I ended up picking up the box set because of this disc in particular. So, great choice. So, let's go close out and listen to some piano. So, for myself, for Alana, for Jono, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later.
I may have also stopped and got an Oreo.
Which one?
You probably don't want me to tell you.
Oh, no, it's not. Is it? No! No! I'd forgotten about them. No! I'm so angry again.
I'm sorry.
I want tiramisu Oreos.